There are things that people do, say, or see that they wouldn't think twice about, as it is just part of their normal everyday casual culture. But to other cultures, these same things are considered fancy, formal, or even high class. So what do Germans find casual that makes an American feel like they should be wearing a black tie? Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Often Americans will stereotype Europe and Europeans in a certain way, and typically the European stereotypes is a little more posh, fancy, or cultured, if you will. As we have lived in Europe, and specifically Germany for the last 4 years, we have seen firsthand that often Germany doesn't fit this mold. But also, we see many ways in which Germans do things they consider just normal German behavior that in the US would be classified as fancy. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. Informal or formal? What do Germans consider normal? First off, we are originally from a state in the southern US called Oklahoma and now live in the southwestern German state of Rhineland-Pfalz. Both of these places have their own unique subcultures that may not be representative of the two countries as a whole. Also, if you haven't seen our first video on this subject, be sure to check it out for even more things Germans do considered fancy in the US. But be sure to let me know in the comments any other things you know are everyday in Germany that are considered more formal in American society. The first topic isn't necessarily specific to just Germany, but generally all across Europe, there is one restaurant establishment that Americans consistently come to Europe and visit, then go home and rant and rave to all of their friends and family about how fancy it is. McDonald's? Well, it isn't exactly the McDonald's as a whole, but specifically the McCafe inside these Mickey D's. I remember specifically when I came to Germany for the first time in 2014, there were times where we needed to grab a quick bite to eat on the road, so we would pop into a McDonald's and would be blown away by the luxurious McCafe section, where they would have delicious looking pastries in display cases, fancy Italian coffee machines, dark wood interiors with comfortable dark leather chairs, and a wide range of fancy coffee drinks available. It was the first time that I realized the little logo on the paper cups in the US that I thought was just a logo for the drip coffee sold at McDonald's might mean something more. But I've heard this time and time again from Americans who go to Europe. Why does Europe have such fancy McDonald's? And suddenly, where we were perfectly content with our greasy and cheap fast food chain being greasy and cheap looking, we realized that there is a more sophisticated and elevated option out there apparently. Once where rather than slap together oily burgers and fries, you could get a cappuccino, a croissant, or maybe even a nice baked slice of cheesecake or cupcakes. Now, apparently this is a trend starting to spread a little more in the US, and I can admit that I haven't been in the US enough over the last 4 years to know how widespread this has become, but I just know consistently, even with McDonald's being an American company, and you wouldn't think Americans should be visiting a McDonald's while they are in Europe necessarily, they often want to see the illustrious and legendary fancy German McDonald's. And you know, I often like to go to coffee shops to work, although I haven't tried McDonald's McCafe yet, although they feel so fancy in Germany. But I do know that when I am working on these types of unsecured public networks, I always use a VPN like today's sponsor, CyberGhost VPN. CyberGhost VPN fully hides and encrypts your IP addresses as it sends everything you're doing through a VPN tunnel to give full privacy. Even CyberGhost won't know what you're doing online because they have a strict no logs policy. Might sound complicated, but it's actually super simple to use. All you have to do is a couple of clicks to connect to one of CyberGhost's over 9,000 servers in 90 countries, and whammo, you're secure. This will also allow you to unblock the libraries of 35 streaming services like Netflix, HBO Max, and many more. In fact, we have a friend moving back to the States who is worried about not being able to watch The Office anymore because it's not on American Netflix, but I told her all she had to do was use CyberGhost VPN and she could still watch it on German Netflix from the US. You can also use it on 7 devices at the same time, meaning you can have one account to share with your friends and family. With over 38 million users 24/7 24/7 support and 45-day money-back guarantee, it is risk-free. Use the link in the description and CyberGhost will also give you 83% off and 4 months free. One surefire way of collecting eye rolls and losing the respect of other fellow Americans is pronouncing foreign words as they are pronounced in their original foreign language. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Lose respect by saying something correctly? But yeah, in many cases in American culture, this is viewed as being uppity, pretentious, or as one blog put it, an expression of superiority to the ordinary just folks Americans. However, in Germany, pronouncing foreign words as they are said in foreign languages it comes from seems to be the norm when using foreign words. For example, in the US, you would order a croissant, but in Germany, you would order a croissant, just as the French would in France. Order a croissant in the US and your friends will leave you at the brunch table to go sit with someone else who is a little more down to earth. There are even, of course, words that have now been adopted into American English that came from other languages that the entire nation has agreed collectively to Americanize the pronunciation, like kindergarten, kindergarten, or bratwurst, bratwurst. Also, some brand names, like which Americans might say, for example, Adidas, Adidas, or even this brand name that should be La Croix. But the brand itself describes on the website to not use this French pronunciation and instead call it LaCroix, Le Croix. Even more than just not pronouncing foreign words the way they are spoken in the language they come from, in general, even using foreign words in your speech in the US that haven't been adopted into English is a great way to come off as a pretentious prick. However, unlike Americans, Germans don't seem to have the same stigma as Americans, and one such example in which Germans differ greatly from Americans is in the use of the Italian word ciao.
Ciao. Right? Ciao. Okay. I say ciao because I'm fancy from Tallahassee.
Why don't we say ciao to the impressions?
Okay.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.
It is just viewed as you're trying way too hard to be cool or show how classy or cultured you are, which is generally not a good look in American society. Because of coming from this culture, we were shocked to hear just how often ciao is used in Germany along with the other German words for goodbye. In fact, it has gotten so ingrained in German culture that you can find the Italian word Germanized and spelled this way at times. Even with having lived in Germany for nearly 4 years now, and with hearing ciao becoming so normal to us, after 30 years of it being ingrained in us that Americans don't say ciao, I have not brought myself to say it even once over here, which is probably something I should work on. To give an extremely oversimplified and brief explanation as to why this cultural difference may exist surrounding foreign words, I found multiple different possible reasons, like a sense of culture superiority could play a role, the fact that most Americans live far removed from any foreign language and don't understand foreign phonetics, so they literally don't know how to pronounce foreign words correctly. Stemming from that could be a sense of embarrassment they might get it wrong and they have to choose between getting ridiculed for pronouncing a foreign word the correct way, or getting ridiculed for trying to pronounce it the correct way, but then getting it wrong. But in Germany, just drive a couple of hours in a direction and you'll be confronted with 9 neighboring countries with various languages and dialects used, giving Germans significantly more comfortability, awareness, and understanding of foreign languages and words. However, Germans do have some explaining to do as to why they call this company incorrectly Nike. In the US, when you receive your food at a restaurant or at home, it is common to wait on everybody to receive their food before starting to eat, but once everybody receives their food, you just start eating. However, in Germany, one thing you must always hear before starting to eat is Guten Appetit. Guten Appetit translates to, wait, Bon Appetit isn't English. Good appetite? That doesn't make sense. Ah, there it is, enjoy your meal. There's the difference. Guten Appetit literally translates to good appetite, which really doesn't make any sense in English, and this would never be said. So why was the main translation French? Well, in the absence of having this phrase in English, we have quasi-adopted the French version of bon appetit, but this is usually said kind of sarcastically or in a fancy restaurants who are trying to play up their fanciness by saying random phrases in French, but it is definitely not a regular phrase said. If anything, Americans would say the last translation, enjoy your meal, but that is not a required standard part of a meal. Most often, this phrase will really only be said by waiters to a table at a restaurant when they have brought them their food, and that's it. Otherwise, this formality is dropped in the US, and it can just feel kind of weird to wish somebody something like bon appetit before eating. So besides just phrasal differences, what's the main difference we've noticed in Germany? We have really noticed that saying guten Appetit is a staple saying at a German dining table, no matter the setting. Whenever we are eating with Germans in their homes, they seem to always say guten Appetit to each other, and this is a signal that it is time for everybody to start eating. Of course, just like Germans do, we always wait until everybody has their food to eat, but we have found ourselves at a German dining table ready to pick up our fork and start eating, and then we are taken off guard when everybody starts saying this phrase, and we have to stop ourselves before taking our first bite, remember to say it as well, and then start eating. So this isn't a huge difference, but with Germans, it does seem like a much more common and pervasive cultural part of a meal, regardless of where you are. And for Americans, it is more specifically reserved for mainly between wait staff and restaurant goers, or maybe formal dining situations where bon appetit would be used. Along the lines of guten Appetit, Germans also do something considered fairly formal in the US every time they drink. Prost. Yeah, of course, in English we have cheers, and we might do that from time to time, but you will most commonly see toasts being made or people simply cheering when at formal meals like weddings, birthdays, or other celebrations. You might cheers when friends get together casually to drink, but it isn't a must, and there certainly aren't really any specifics as to how you do it, because it just isn't necessarily any important part of social drinking in the US, because it can feel a little stuffy. However, in Germany, I feel like every time a drink is consumed, whether alcoholic or not, this is Apfelschorle, Germans can't simply start to sip without first making sure they acknowledge everybody with a drink. Of course, it might not always be a Prost, as you could also hear a Zum Wohl, but it's more than just saying the words that's important in Germany. When you cheers or stoßen in German, you must make sure you look the person in the eyes the entire time you do, or else you risk. In fact, yesterday we were sitting in our neighbor's backyard enjoying a nice, cool afternoon, and they always want to offer us something to eat and drink when we visit with them, which is extremely nice. The German couple ran down to their basement where they keep their stockpile of wine, poured a casual glass of wine for us, and not only did we say Prost once, but twice while drinking, and everybody held up their glasses, looked each other in the eye, and cheered each other. In the US, when you casually get together on a weekday afternoon and offer someone a drink, they'll usually accept it and simply thank you for it before they start drinking. It's hard to explain, but this just feels very formal to do when you're just sitting with friends in your garden. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is there one American restaurant you've seen or heard of that you've always wondered how it actually tastes? Once again, thanks to CyberGhost VPN for sponsoring this video. Don't miss out on using the link in the video description to start surfing the internet safer and unlocking geo-blocked entertainment online for just over €2 per month and with a money-back guarantee. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in my next video.
Here's the insider look. Not actually fully fancy, like a news anchor.
Not wearing pajama pants, but I'm definitely not wearing a full suit. And you know, I often like to go to coffee shops to work, although I haven't tried the McDonald's cafe. I often like to go work at coffee shops to work. And